All right, so we're diving into this import-export manager role in tobacco products, and we've got RoleCatcher's resources to help us break it all down.
It's a pretty fascinating role when you dig into it.
Yeah, so we've got career guides, interview guides, and even info on how their AI can help you prep.
It's like having a whole team in your corner,
Exactly. Our mission is to make sure you're not just answering questions, you're wowing them.
leaving a lasting impression.
So let's start with painting a picture of what this role actually looks like.
Yeah, RoleCatcher's career guide lays it all out.
And it seems like it's a pretty dynamic position.
Definitely not your typical desk job.
So walk us through it. What are the key things that stand out to you?
Well, first off, you're dealing with a global network. You've got logistics, compliance, supplier relationships, all happening on an international scale.
And of course, you can't forget the ethical considerations that come with tobacco products.
Right. That's something RoleCatcher emphasizes right from the start.
They actually list it as both a pro and a con, which is
hmm
interesting.
Yeah, it makes you think about the bigger picture.
It's not just about landing the job. It's about feeling good about the work you do right.
Exactly. They encourage you to really weigh the pros and cons.
So on the pro side, you've got potential for high earnings international travel, developing some really valuable skills.
Right, you're dealing with high stakes negotiations, complex regulations. It's a fast-paced environment.
But then there's that con, working in an industry that's inherently linked to health risks.
It's a tough reality to grapple with.
So for anyone considering this career path, it's essential to take that time for self-reflection.
Really think about your values and where you draw the line.
So let's say you've weighed those factors and you're ready to tackle those interview questions.
RoleCatcher's interview guide is a goldmine for that.
They've got 7 key questions that they really dive into.
Let's start with the first one. It's a classic. Can you describe your experience in managing import and export operations for tobacco products?
Seems pretty straightforward, but what are the interviewers really trying to uncover with this one?
They want to see that you've actually walked the walk. Not just that you're familiar with the procedures, but that you can give concrete examples.
So don't just tell them you're organized. Show them.
Exactly. Talk about a specific project where you manage the import of a certain quantity of tobacco, maybe from a particular country.
And highlight the challenges you faced. Any roadblocks you had to overcome.
Did you have to navigate complex regulations or tight deadlines? Did you have to troubleshoot any issues with suppliers or customs?
The more real-world examples you can give, the better.
It paints a much clearer picture of your capabilities.
So instead of saying I'm a problem solver, you could say something like, in my previous role, I managed the import of 500,000 cartons of cigarettes from Brazil, ensuring all documentation met import regulations and navigating a port strike to meet our delivery deadline.
Now that's a story that sticks.
And shows you can handle the pressure.
And be prepared for follow-up questions they might ask you about specific regulations you had to comply with or the steps you took to resolve a tricky situation.
So it's all about showcasing that depth of experience.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer.
Oh yeah. Tell me more about how that works.
Their platform actually analyzes job descriptions and helps you tailor your responses.
So it's like having a coach whispering the right plays in your ear.
Exactly. It pulls out those keywords and phrases that employers are looking for and helps you weave them into your answers.
Okay, let's move on to question number 2. How do you ensure compliance with import and export regulations for tobacco products?
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah, compliance is no joke in this industry.
Mishandling it can lead to major fines and seriously damage a company's reputation.
So what are they really getting at with this question?
They want to know you're not just aware of the rules, you have a system for making sure they're followed to the letter.
It's about being proactive, not just reactive.
Exactly. So don't just rattle off a list of regulations, bring it to life with real examples.
How did you ensure all documentation, like certificates of origin and import licenses, were in order? Did you implement a tracking system for shipments?
You could say something like, I developed a comprehensive checklist for each shipment, ensuring compliance with labeling requirements, health warnings, and all necessary permits.
It shows you're detail-oriented and you take compliance seriously.
And again, RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor these responses to the specific regulations mentioned in the job description.
It's like having a research assistant who pulls up all the relevant legal frameworks so you can demonstrate your expertise.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Okay, on to question number 3. How do you manage relationships with suppliers and customers for tobacco products?
This one's all about your people skills.
Navigating those international relationships.
Exactly. You're not just dealing with logistics, you're dealing with people. And in a global industry like tobacco, that means navigating different cultures, communication styles, building rapport and trust.
So how do you showcase those relationship building skills in an interview setting?
Think of a situation where you had to resolve a conflict with a supplier or went above and beyond to meet a customer's needs.
Maybe you had to negotiate a new contract, handle a delayed shipment, or even smooth over a cultural misunderstanding.
The key is to show that you can build and maintain those relationships even under pressure.
I imagine a good example would be something like when our Indonesian supplier faced an unexpected tobacco crop shortage. I worked closely with them to find alternative sources and adjust our production schedule, minimizing delays and maintaining a positive relationship.
Perfect. That shows you're proactive, solution-oriented, and committed to keeping those relationships strong.
And this is another area where RoleCatcher's AI can really shine right.
Absolutely. Their platform provides feedback on your answers, helping you refine your delivery and ensure you're highlighting the most relevant details.
Okay, let's tackle question number 4. Can you describe your experience in managing inventory for tobacco products?
This is all about maintaining a smooth and efficient supply chain.
And I imagine in the tobacco industry there are some unique challenges.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance. You need enough product to meet demand, but not so much that you're wasting resources or risking product going stale.
So what kind of skills and experience should you highlight when answering this question?
Talk about your experience with forecasting demand, optimizing warehouse space, implementing inventory tracking systems.
Did you reduce stockouts or minimize waste? Did you use any specific software or methodologies?
A great example would be something like, in my previous role, I implemented a just-in-time inventory system that reduced our warehouse costs by 10% and minimized product waste.
That really quantifies your impact.
And be ready for those follow-up questions they might ask you to describe how you handle unexpected disruptions in the supply chain, like a natural disaster or a political upheaval.
It's about showing you can think on your feet and adapt to changing circumstances.
And RoleCatcher can actually help you prepare for those curveballs with their AI-powered practice scenarios.
It's like a flight simulator for your career.
Right. Exactly, allowing you to practice handling those difficult situations and refine your responses until you feel confident.
That's such a helpful way to think about it.
Preparation is key, especially when it comes to those unexpected scenarios.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to question number 5. How do you ensure that tobacco products are transported safely and securely?
And this is all about risk management.
Tobacco products are high value and often subject to strict regulations, so security is paramount.
Exactly. The interviewer wants to know that you're taking every precaution to prevent theft damage or any compliance breaches during transportation.
So what kind of security measures should you be talking about?
You could mention choosing reputable transportation providers with a strong track record, using GPS tracking systems, implementing tamper-evident seals, conducting regular security audits.
It's about having a multi-layered approach.
And if you've developed any specific protocols for handling incidents or theft, be sure to highlight those as well.
So instead of just saying, I make sure the products are transported safely, you'd say something like, I developed a multi-layered security protocol that included vetting all transportation providers, using GPS tracking on all shipments, and implementing tamper-evident seals on every container.
Much more impactful.
And don't forget to mention how you ensure the transportation process aligns with all relevant regulations.
Right, you're thinking about the big picture and demonstrating your compliance knowledge.
I bet RoleCatcher's AI could really help with those details, pulling up regulations specific to different regions.
You bet. It's like having a global compliance expert on call, helping you ensure your answers are accurate and tailored to the specific requirements of the job.
Okay, let's dive into question number 6. Can you describe your experience in negotiating pricing and contracts for tobacco products?
Now, this one really gets to the heart of your business acumen.
They want to see that you can drive a hard bargain while still maintaining those all-important relationships.
It's a delicate balance.
So what are some key points to hit when answering this question?
First, outline your negotiation philosophy. Do you believe in win-win scenarios, or are you more of a hardball negotiator?
Be authentic, but also strategic.
Then back it up with real examples. Did you secure a lower price from a supplier? Negotiate a better contract with a shipping company? Quantify your successes whenever possible.
For instance, By implementing a competitive bidding process for our packaging materials, I was able to reduce our procurement costs by 8%.
Perfect. That shows you're results-oriented and you know how to make an impact on the bottom line.
And be prepared to discuss a time when you faced a particularly tough negotiation, how you handled it, what strategies you used, what was the outcome.
They want to see how you think on your feet and handle those high-pressure situations.
And once again, RoleCatcher's AI can be a valuable resource for practicing these scenarios and getting feedback on your approach.
Absolutely. It's like having a personal negotiation coach, helping you refine your skills and develop winning strategies.
All right, on to the final question in this set. How do you ensure that tobacco products comply with quality standards and regulations?
Now, this one brings together compliance knowledge and a focus on quality control.
So it's about demonstrating that you're committed to upholding both those standards throughout the entire supply chain.
Exactly. They want to see that you understand the regulations, have a system for monitoring quality, and are prepared to address any issues that arise.
So how can you effectively communicate that commitment in your answer?
Start by highlighting your knowledge of relevant quality standards and regulations like the ISO 9001 standard or specific guidelines for tobacco products.
Then walk them through the steps you take to ensure compliance.
Do you conduct regular internal audits? Do you work with third-party testing labs? Have you implemented any specific quality control procedures during production or packaging?
You could say something like, I implemented a rigorous quality control checklist at each stage of the supply chain, from sourcing the raw materials to packaging the final product, ensuring we met all regulatory requirements and exceeded industry standards.
It shows you're thinking about quality at every step.
And be ready to discuss specific examples of quality issues you've encountered and how you resolve them.
It demonstrates your problem-solving skills and proactive approach.
And I imagine RoleCatcher's AI could be really helpful here too, tailoring your responses to the specific quality standards and regulations mentioned in the job description.
Absolutely. Their platform gives you access to a wealth of information on industry standards and regulations, so you can be sure your answers are accurate and relevant.
Okay, before we move on, let's recap what we've covered so far.
We've tackled those first 7 crucial questions from RoleCatcher's interview guide, giving you insights into what those interviewers are really asking and how to craft strong responses.
And we've highlighted how RoleCatcher's AI can be your secret weapon, helping you personalize your answers, practice your delivery, and get that valuable feedback.
It's like having a whole team of experts in your corner.
So remember, the goal is not just to answer the questions, it's to showcase your knowledge, your experience, and your enthusiasm for the role.
You want to leave them with a lasting impression.
In the next section, we'll explore how RoleCatcher can help you go beyond traditional interview prep and really gain a competitive edge in your job search.
We'll delve into their AI-powered tools for resume building, company research, and so much more.
Stay tuned.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground on those interview questions.
Yeah, we've really dug deep into how to approach those 7 key questions from RoleCatcher's guide.
But RoleCatcher doesn't just stop at prepping you for the interview. They have some pretty amazing tools to help you stand out throughout the entire job search process.
Well, that's interesting. I'm always curious about new ways to up your job search game. What kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, one of their most unique features is called Get Discovered.
Get Discovered. That sounds intriguing.
It's all about flipping the script. Instead of you chasing down job postings, employers actually find you based on your skills and experience.
Okay, that's a game changer. How does that even work?
You create a profile highlighting your key skills and what you're looking for in a career, and their AI does the rest.
So it's like a matchmaking service, but for your career.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of searching for jobs and puts you directly in front of companies who are actively looking for someone just like you.
So no more endless scrolling through job boards hoping something catches your eye.
Right. And it significantly increases your chances of getting noticed by the right people.
That must save so much time and effort.
And stress.
Exactly. What other tools does RoleCatcher offer to give job seekers that extra edge?
Their AI-powered CV resume builder is another one that really stands out.
Oh, yes, resume writing. It's the bane of every job seeker's existence.
It can be such a daunting task, but RoleKiller's AI simplifies the whole process.
So how does it work? Do you just plug in your information and it spits out a perfectly polished resume?
Pretty much. You input your work history, skills, education, etc., and their AI analyzes it all.
And then what?
It suggests improvements, highlights keywords that are going to catch an employer's eye, and ensures the formatting is top-notch.
So it's like having a professional resume writer by your side.
Exactly. And it goes even further. It actually tailors your resume to each specific job description you apply for.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
It makes sure you're highlighting the most relevant skills and experience for each role, increasing your chances of getting shortlisted.
RoleCatcher really seems like a one-stop shop for navigating the job market. They've got everything from finding the right opportunities to crafting the perfect application materials.
They really do take a lot of the stress and guesswork out of the job search.
But even with a killer resume and stellar interview skills, landing the job isn't just about checking off boxes, it's about finding the right fit.
Couldn't agree more. It's about finding a company whose culture and values align with your own.
Why is that so important?
Yeah.
I mean, beyond just feeling happy at work.
Well, when you're genuinely excited about a company and its mission, it shows. It comes across in your interview, and it'll make you a much more engaged and productive employee if you get the job.
It's about that long-term satisfaction.
Exactly. So how do you go about actually researching a company's culture and values before you even step foot in the interview room?
Where do you even begin?
The company website is always a good starting point. Look for their mission statement, values, any information about their work environment.
And don't forget to check their social media. It's a great way to get a sense of their personality and how they interact with the public.
Good point. You can see what kind of content they share, what causes they support, what their employees are saying.
And then there are sites like Glassdoor where you can read reviews from current and former employees.
Right. It's like getting an inside scoop on what it's really like to work there, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And if you happen to know someone who works or has worked at the company, reaching out for an informational interview can be incredibly valuable.
Those personal connections can give you insights that you won't find anywhere else.
But how do you actually weave all this research into the interview itself? I mean,
Right.
beyond just saying, I like your company culture.
Well, you can use it to tailor your answers and highlight how your values align with theirs.
So if they emphasize innovation, you could talk about a time when you came up with a creative solution to a problem.
Or if teamwork is a big part of their culture, you could focus on collaborative projects you've led.
It's about showing them that you'd be a natural fit.
And don't be afraid to ask insightful questions about their culture during the interview.
It shows you've done your homework and you're genuinely interested.
Exactly. You could ask things like, can you tell me more about the company's commitment to sustainability? Or, what are some of the ways the company fosters a positive work environment?
It not only shows your interest, but also helps you gather more information to decide if it's the right place for you.
Remember, an interview is a two-way street.
You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
And speaking of resources, RoleCatcher can actually give you a leg up in this area, too.
Oh, really? How so?
Their AI gathers insights into company culture from employee reviews and other data, so it can give you a snapshot of the company's values, work environment, even leadership style.
It's like having a cheat sheet for company culture.
Exactly. You can use it to tailor your approach and ensure you're presenting yourself in a way that resonates with them.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a type of interview question that often trips people up: behavioral questions.
Ah, yes. Those can be tricky.
What are behavioral questions exactly, for anyone who might not be familiar with the term?
These are questions that ask you to describe how you've handled specific situations in the past.
So they often start with phrases like, tell me about a time when, or describe a situation where.
Exactly. They want to see concrete examples of your skills and experience in action, not just general statements.
So it's not enough to just say, you're a good communicator. You have to give a specific example of a time when you used your communication skills to achieve a positive outcome.
Right. They want to see how you think on your feet, problem solve, and handle challenging situations.
What are some behavioral questions you might encounter in an interview for an import-export manager role?
Well, they might ask you to describe a time when you had to deal with a difficult supplier, a shipment delay, a compliance issue.
Or maybe even a time when you had to navigate a cultural misunderstanding or negotiate a tough contract.
Exactly. Those are all situations that require a high level of skill and diplomacy.
So how do you prepare for this kind of question? I mean, it's one thing to remember a situation, but it's another to be able to articulate it clearly and concisely in an interview setting.
That's where the STAR method comes in.
Okay, I've heard of the STAR method. Can you refresh my memory on how it works?
It stands for situation, task, action, and result.
Okay, so you start by describing the situation you were in.
Right. Then you explain the task or role you had in that situation.
Then you outline the specific actions you took to address the situation.
And finally, you highlight the results of your actions.
So, for example, if they ask, tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult supplier, you could start by saying, in my previous role, I was responsible for sourcing tobacco from a supplier in Argentina who was notorious for missing deadlines.
Perfect. That sets the scene.
Then you would describe your task, which might be something like, my task was to ensure we received the tobacco on time and within budget to meet our production targets.
Right. You're outlining the challenge you faced.
Then you describe the actions you took, maybe something like, I established clear communication channels with the supplier, set firm deadlines with penalties for delays, and implemented a system for tracking their performance.
And finally, you'd wrap it up by highlighting the positive result of your actions.
Maybe something like, as a result of my actions, the supplier's performance improved significantly, and we were able to meet our production targets without exceeding budget.
It's a clear, concise, and impactful way to showcase your skills in action.
I love how the STAR method turns a potentially rambling story into a structured and compelling example.
It really helps you stay focused and deliver your message effectively.
And RoleCatcher can actually help you practice this too, right?
They sure can. Their platform has a library of behavioral questions categorized by skill, so you can find ones that are relevant to the import-export manager role.
And their AI can give you feedback on your responses, helping you refine your storytelling and ensure you're hitting all the right points.
It's like having a virtual mock interview with personalized coaching.
That's fantastic. Now, I know asking questions at the end of an interview is super important, but sometimes it's hard to come up with good ones on the spot. Any tips for how to prepare for that?
The key is to do your research beforehand.
So before the interview even starts.
Exactly. Look into the company, the role, the industry, so you can formulate questions that show you've gone deeper than a surface-level Google search.
So instead of asking, what does your company do? You could ask something more specific, like, I read that your company is expanding into new markets in Asia. Can you tell me more about the challenges and opportunities you anticipate in those markets?
Now that's a question that sparks a conversation.
And it shows you're thinking strategically about the industry and the company's future.
Exactly. Focus on questions that help you assess if the company is the right fit for you. You could ask about their company culture, work-life balance, opportunities for growth, or even their expectations for the role in the first 6 months to a year.
It's your chance to gather information and get a feel for whether you'd thrive in that environment.
And it's perfectly fine to jot down a few questions beforehand.
So you don't freeze up in the moment.
Exactly. Just make sure they're well thought out and demonstrate your genuine interest.
And be prepared to engage in a conversation. Don't just read off a list of questions.
Listen to their answers and ask follow-up questions. It shows you're truly listening and engaged.
So we've covered research behavioral questions, asking good questions of our own. But there's one more aspect of interview prep that can really make or break you, how you present yourself.
Ah, yes, the good old dress for success advice.
It might seem superficial, but first impressions really do matter. Your appearance can influence how the interviewer perceives you.
Absolutely. So what are some tips for dressing for success in an interview for an import-export manager role?
Well, I imagine it would depend on the company culture. Some are more formal, while others are more laid back.
You're right. So do your research, check their website, their social media, try to get a sense of their vibe.
And when in doubt, err on the side of formality.
Absolutely. It's always better to be slightly overdressed than underdressed for an interview.
And regardless of what you choose to wear, make sure your clothing is comfortable and well-fitting.
You want to feel confident and at ease, not fidgeting with your clothes or feeling self-conscious.
And don't forget the details. Polished shoes, neat hair, clean nails, all those little things add up to a polished and professional impression.
And please lay off the strong perfumes or colognes. You never know if the interviewer might have sensitivities.
Good point. It's all about being respectful and creating a positive experience for everyone involved.
So what are some specific clothing options that would work well for this kind of interview?
For men, a suit and tie are always a classic choice. If the company is more casual, you could opt for a blazer and dress pants or a button-down shirt with khakis.
And for women, a suit or a dress with a blazer is always a good option, or a blouse and skirt or dress pants.
The key is to choose something that makes you feel confident and professional.
Exactly. You want to project an image of competence and capability.
Now let's talk about something that everyone experiences before an interview, but no one likes to talk about nerves.
Ah, the dreaded interview jitters.
It's perfectly normal to feel nervous before an important interview. It's a big opportunity, but if those nerves get out of control, they can really sabotage your performance.
So how can we tame those butterflies and walk into that interview feeling calm and collected?
Well, first and foremost, preparation is key. The more prepared you are, the more confident you'll feel.
Practice those interview questions until you can answer them in your sleep.
And don't underestimate the power of breathing. Taking slow, deep breaths can really help calm your nerves.
Another great tip is visualization.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Close your eyes and imagine yourself confidently answering questions, engaging with the interviewer, making a great impression. It can really help boost your confidence.
And make sure you arrive early. Rushing in at the last minute will only add to your stress.
Getting there early gives you time to settle in, take a few deep breaths, and center yourself.
And most importantly, be kind to yourself. It's okay to feel nervous. Everyone does. Remember, the interviewer wants you to succeed. They've invited you for an interview because they see something in your resume and experience.
They're rooting for you.
So let's say you've done all the prep work, you've visualized success. You've arrived early, but you're still feeling those nerves creeping in. What are some things you can do during the interview itself to manage those feelings?
Maintaining good eye contact is crucial. It shows you're engaged and confident.
And remember to speak clearly and slowly. Nerves can make us rush our words or mumble, so take your time and enunciate.
And don't be afraid to pause for a moment before answering a question. It's perfectly acceptable to gather your thoughts. It shows you're being thoughtful, not just blurting out the first thing that comes to mind.
And if you don't understand a question, don't be afraid to ask for clarification.
It's much better to be sure than to give a rambling or off-topic answer.
And above all, maintain a positive and enthusiastic attitude. Your passion for the role will shine through, even if you're feeling a little nervous underneath it all.
Enthusiasm is contagious.
Speaking of positive impressions, sending a thank you note after an interview is a great way to stay top of mind with the interviewer. What are your thoughts on thank you notes?
They're essential. It's a simple gesture, but it shows you're appreciative of their time and reinforces your interest in the role.
So any tips for writing a great thank you note?
Timing is key. Send it within 24 hours of the interview. Keep it brief and to the point. Thank them for their time, reiterate your interest, and mention something specific that you discussed during the interview.
It shows you were paying attention.
Exactly. And of course, proofread carefully before hitting send. Typos and grammatical errors can really undermine a good impression.
And guess what? RoleCatcher can help you with this too.
Oh, really?
Yep, they offer templates for thank you notes and other follow-up communications. And you can use their AI to personalize those notes and make sure they're professional and impactful.
RoleCatcher really does seem to have all the bases covered.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground in this section. Let's recap what we've learned about going beyond the basics of interview prep.
We talked about how RoleCatcher can help you get discovered by employers, build a standout resume, and research company culture.
We also discussed the importance of preparing for behavioral questions, using the STAR method, asking thoughtful questions of your own, and presenting yourself professionally.
And we touched on those all-important interview nerves and how to manage them.
So much valuable information to help you ace that interview and land that dream job.
Now, in the final section, we'll tackle a topic that's specific to this industry, the ethical considerations of working in the tobacco industry.
It's a complex issue that deserves careful consideration.
We'll explore the pros and cons, the challenges, and the rewards of building a career in this field.
Stay tuned. Okay, so we've prepped you with a ton of tips and strategies for acing this import-export manager interview, but there's one more layer we need to unpack.
You're right. We can't ignore the ethical elephant in the room, the ethical considerations that come with working in the tobacco industry.
And it's something that RoleCatcher's Guide doesn't shy away from.
They encourage a balanced perspective, really urging you to weigh the pros and cons as you navigate this career path.
So let's lay it all out. What are some of those pros, those things that might draw someone to this industry?
Well, the potential for high earnings is definitely a factor.
Yeah, it's a competitive field, but there's definitely room to earn a good living.
And the opportunity for international travel is another big draw.
Getting to experience different cultures, work with people from all over the world.
It's a very dynamic and global industry.
And you're dealing with a complex supply chain, navigating regulations, negotiating contracts. There's definitely a lot to keep you engaged.
It's not for the faint of heart.
But then, of course, there's the other side of the coin. The ethical challenges that come with working in an industry that's inherently linked to health risks.
That's the tough reality that everyone considering this career path has to grapple with.
And it can be especially challenging for someone who's driven by making a positive impact on the world.
Right. How do you reconcile those two things?
And that's where RoleCatcher's emphasis on self-reflection really comes in.
They push you to ask yourself some tough questions.
Do my personal values align with this industry?
Can I feel good about the work I'm doing, knowing the potential consequences?
It's not about judging. It's about being honest with yourself.
Exactly. And they even list declining tobacco consumption as a potential con, which is interesting.
Yeah, it signals that you need to think long-term. Is this a sustainable career path or just a stepping stone?
It's a valid question to consider.
So let's say you've weighed all these factors and you're at the interview and they ask you about your choice to work in this industry. How do you navigate that conversation?
Honesty and self-awareness are key. You don't need to pretend it's not a complex issue. Acknowledge the challenges and articulate why you've chosen this path despite them.
Could you give an example of how to approach that?
Sure, you could say something like, I'm aware of the health concerns surrounding tobacco use, and it's something I've given a lot of thought. However, I believe in the importance of responsible global trade, and I'm committed to upholding ethical and compliant practices within any industry. This role allows me to leverage my skills in a way that aligns with my professional goals.
It acknowledges the complexity without shying away from it.
Exactly, and it opens the door for further discussion, showing that you've thought critically about your career choices.
And it also gives you a chance to gauge the interviewer's perspective.
Right. Are they dismissive, defensive, thoughtful? Their response can tell you a lot about the company's values and whether it's truly a good fit for you.
Remember, an interview is a two-way street. You're evaluating them just as much as they're evaluating you.
It's about finding the right match, both professionally and ethically.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of import-export management and tobacco products, I want to emphasize that you're not just walking into this interview. You're walking in informed, prepared, and empowered to make a conscious decision about your career path.
This deep dive has given you the tools and insights to not only ace the interview, but also to really assess if this is the right path for you.
And remember, RoleCatcher is there every step of the way. With their resources, their AI-powered tools, their wealth of information.
They're like your personal career coach, guiding you towards a fulfilling and successful career.
So go out there, rock that interview, and feel good about the work you do. That's what it's all about.
Best of luck.